Well, hello. My name is Nancy Parsons, and welcome to what we call CDR Live. And about once a month, I have a wonderful guest on that I get to ask questions to and introduce you to. And today, I have somebody so special that I think you're going to be excited to hear her story about her career, what she's doing, and some of the accomplishments that she's had. And so I have Dr. Leslye McDade Morrison with me, and I call her Leslye. And actually, um, Leslye was a client of ours many years ago and is still a certified coach. But Leslye was actually, I met her when she was the chief learning officer at the Pentagon at the Department of Defense. And interestingly, she had read our newsletter, so reached out, I think through Colonel Stringer, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, you had him call me. And so from there, she investigated more about our assessments and leadership development, some other projects, and we started to work together. So a little bit more about Leslye. So she, again, was the chief learning officer at the Pentagon from 2005 to 2009. And then she also served at the U.S. Army Civilian University. She attended the National Defense University, National War College, and George Mason University and the University of Central Florida. After leaving the DoD, she was the president of Hickory Ground Solutions, a native-owned 8A company providing advisory and assistance services, educational development and delivery, Lean Six Sigma, and program management office support for federal government clients. Again, she is a certified executive coach, and she specializes in organizational performance, issues, and solutions. I am super delighted that Leslye is here with me today. Welcome, Leslye.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
So we go way back, and
it's been a fun ride.
It has. And one of the things too that I want you all to know, Leslye is the idea person, the visionary behind CDR-U Coach. As many of you know, for the last couple of years, we spent a lot of time. We developed the technology and launched CDR-U Coach, which has won international awards. And then here lately, we just won the Houston Innovation Award last week. But it was Leslye when she was at the U.S. Army Civilian University. Leslye, you might tell them the story about how that happened, how you came about the idea.
Well, back in the day, as everybody was getting, the whole world was talking about competencies. And in the Department of Defense, to get a job, you have to write about your competencies and what you've done and have to show, not just talk about what you've done, but show results. And so at the same time, I was in this leadership position to develop the workforce for thousands and thousands of people in the Department of Army, 300,000 civilians, actually. And it was clear. We just know from a statistical perspective, true leaders are few and far between. Everybody can improve. I was an art teacher way back in the day. And I didn't have any Michelangelos in my classes, nor am I Michelangelo.
Right.
But I knew everybody could improve their artistic appreciation and skill. And so that's what we learn. It's just a skill. Then the true artists get beyond this technical skill, just like a musician, and they become world famous and everybody wants some of their paintings. Well, leaders are the same way. So we can tweak. A great leader is born. So what we do with them is just sort of tweak around the edges. But I became fascinated with Nancy's assessment that could identify a leader. We don't have to send. I mean, imagine I'm responsible for 300,000 Army civilians. Am I going to send them all to leadership training and hope a few of them are actually leaders? Or I'm going to assess them and see who the true leaders are. And I believe we should develop people's strengths. Once you're an adult and you're in the workforce, develop strengths and not worry so much about the weaknesses unless it creates an immoral, unethical, or some sort of a felon. We need to work on people's strengths because that's where they're happiest, working in the areas that they like to work with. So I always say this, I could never be a very good accountant because I don't like the details.
Right. Absolutely. I'm with
All
you.
those little numbers. And you got to find the penny. The penny. Who cares about the penny? Well, accountants care about pennies. I don't. So if you made me go into accounting, I'd be miserable every day. I'd wake up and go, oh, I've got to go to this awful job and be an accountant. Please,
Exactly.
somebody save me from this. So we sort of self-select careers that we like.
Right.
So I went into the social services, teachers, nurses, obviously counselors. A lot of people like the social sciences career field because as people in the Pentagon would say, oh, that's the touchy-feely stuff.
Right.
And I would say, yes, it is. But what about your organization, your employees? If you're just always analytical and never inquire, hey, how's your family doing? I heard let's say somebody had a child in the hospital. How's Johnny doing? I was concerned about you. If you can't do that, if it doesn't come naturally, I can tell you you need to do it, and I can help you know situations when you should do it. That will help in your organization, because otherwise people will think you don't like them or you think they're stupid. And that's exactly what one organization, Pentagon, told me. We never see the boss. He has a side door he can get in. He can be sitting in his office all day long. We never see him.
Wow.
So what's wrong with us that he has sort of taken that approach with his workforce? And I said, well, there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
I'd say the problem is with him. So he was willing, because I was on the staff at the Pentagon, to do this work. The assessment was already in my budget. I was there as the coach. I was already in the budget. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Would you like for me to help you improve your organization so that you can use everyone to their fullest capability? Or do you just want to keep hiring while they leave?
Right.
Which is simpler. Well, let's keep the people we know. So that was the premise. And I think it's a good one, because once we all took the assessment, well, I had already had it, and I already knew where my weaknesses were, where my false advocacy was, and all of the aspects that we don't like about our personality. That I call those the weak areas. Your greatest strengths can also be your greatest weakness. And so once I had that conversation with them, they said, well, let's do it. Let's make my organization better. And because Nancy's group had taken her assessment and matched it to the federal government-wide executive core qualifications, right, which are still in play in federal government. And they gave me the results based on those qualifications. They have stood the test of time. They're based on known leadership attributes. So I would say to him, of all the people in your organization, 2 of them show actual leadership potential. You might not have them in a leadership position, but they show great leadership potential. And this is why. Then we took those charts and I did a briefing with all of the employees, and we had a whole day or 2 maybe of training, and Nancy created the training, came and did the training so that they could work on their whatever was a part of their leadership aspect that needed some tweaking. And people were really amazed as I would give their feedback. I did all that before Nancy showed up. Sometimes we went from at least 2 hours, sometimes 5 hours.
Wow.
Give them a break. Not much of a break, because once I had them, I wasn't going to get them again. You know?
So, yeah.
So I had to make the most of that time, and they were very patient, but they would turn to me and say, how do you know all of this about me?
Right. On the feedback. Absolutely.
Right. And I said, well, it's really pretty simple. You filled out the assessment and you told me everything about yourself.
Exactly.
And we had a conversation here, and I asked you specific questions. And now I'm able to take experiences in your life and show you how that has affected your leadership and how your leadership affects you today.
Right.
You're the same person here at the Pentagon or at Fort Belvoir, where Army Civilian University was located, as you are at home. So let's look at you in three ways: how you are as your private self, how you are at the office, and how you are at home, because you're the same person. So we worked on that, and they were able, some who were wanting to be senior executives, which in the Department of, which in the federal government, a senior executive is a civilian,
Right.
who then becomes equivalent. They come in as a SES 1, so that's a 1-star general equivalent, and then it goes up to SES 4.
Okay.
So even at that level, they were really fascinated with what I was telling them and what I was explaining to them. And they were seeing their personality, how it was affecting their family and their workplace. And I said, we can work on this and get you a very high performing organization. And you don't even have to hire anybody new. We'll get these old people working with the excitement like they came in 30 years ago, because you don't get to the Pentagon, your first day on the job in Department of Defense.
Right.
So they were excited about that. And I then was developing a leadership ladder, which included an online assessment. And then for the organization, they could look at it and say, well, you have these many people that need this training. I mapped all of the training in the Department of Defense and federal government to every ECQ.
Right.
Then we put that in an application, and they could budget it. They knew when the classes were. I mean, it was pretty detailed.
Right. Right. And I remember we worked with you when they took the assessments, it went in correlated to the ECQs and then to your LMS system, your learning, as you say, your learning management system.
Exactly.
To let them know, here's some strengths you want to build on more.
Right.
Here's some risk areas you might want to do some work here.
Correct. That's right. And so because it all had financial data in it, any supervisor or head of an organization could just run a tally. Oh, well, this is what it's going to cost. My budget needs to increase by this much, or only some people can go. I mean, it gave them some data, real-time data about people from an assessment that was valid and reliable. And they could then know who should I send.
Exactly. Now, but then when you went to the Army,
yes,
that's when you asked me though too, could we do something digital or an avatar? And that was another need. As you said, you wanted to get some measures on all the talent. Where is the talent? Let's find it.
Right. Because, Nancy, we see clearly in the assessment that sometimes we discover a diamond in the rough.
Absolutely.
They have all of the attributes of leadership, energy, and social skills and all of that, all the way down, curiosity and academic focus. They love to learn, so on and so forth. But they had never gotten a job that they were kind of able to shine.
Exactly.
And there was this very high-level person in the Pentagon. He wasn't a leader. He was a worker bee in an organization. And he had been thrust into this leadership role because somebody left and they just shoved him up into it because he was the last person standing, so to speak. Okay. And he was doing a really good job.
Yeah.
And he was surprised. I said, why are you surprised? Knowing all the time why he was surprised. He said, because I never thought I could do this. And I said, well, it's because, one, you never took this assessment. I was never here to tell you that you could do it, and no one had given you the opportunity. And he wasn't one, a little bit, Nancy, like you and me, to sort of push themselves forward.
Right.
He was a little bit more introverted. And so he went, wow, that's pretty interesting. I said, I see diamonds in the rough all over everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And now that I've given this assessment and coached it so many times, I can have about a 10-minute conversation with somebody. I've already determined, what their profile looks like. Of course,
Right.
sometimes I'm a little bit surprised down in the subscales, but the big picture,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can usually guess, and I start telling them about themselves before they even have the assessment. And so then they're interested to see the details, wow, how is that going to work? So it's just a marvelous tool. I've not found one like it that I say it's the Myers-Briggs on steroids.
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs only assesses that one little area of a person, their strengths, and
Exactly.
doesn't do these other things. And if nothing else, I would tell my supervisors or all other people that if you just found out what gets your employees up in the morning and what they're interested in to come to work, those 11 things about how you like to be rewarded and recognized.
Right.
And of all of those, only one is money.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if I can increase any of their reasons that they want to get up in the morning and schlep to the Pentagon in a lot of traffic, wouldn't that be worth it to you?
Exactly.
So there's all kinds of things that people like to do that make them excited about their job. And they'll take the money, but if the other things aren't there, they'll leave soon after that.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
It's the retention tool.
It's the retention tool, and they get it. But then I'll have to say, because the bureaucracy is so entrenched and the ability to do things for people, you do something for one person, then you get a grievance because someone else didn't get something. And usually leaders just don't have any stomach for that, nor any energy for it. By the time they get to the Pentagon, remember, they've been in the bureaucracy 20, 25 years. And it's hard to make that change.
Yeah.
So I think the commercial world is probably a little bit easier to do that. They can do things, let employees know that this is available, but only some are going to get it, and so on and so forth. However, you can work that out. But it's just the most marvelous tool. You can use it so many ways.
Right.
That it can speak to any organization, any type of employee, from blue collar all the way up to the hoity-toity engineers at the Pentagon.
I love that. Well, and it's so true. And the reason, based on your suggestion, to do something that's digital avatar, is so that we can reach the 80% of people who never get live coaching.
That's right.
You can't.
They're not already in there. They only want to assess them once they get to that spot, but it may be too late.
Exactly. And even with women, we know in our research with the glass ceiling, well, they're falling under way before that because of their risk factors. Yet they may have a much better leadership profile or strengths, but the risks as worriers tends to hold them back prematurely. So if we can get to them earlier and help them develop that, then you go, girl. They can really, rise to the highest levels without holding themselves back due to that certain risk. And I think the same with diverse populations. We see different risks. And so those behaviors early on hold them back, or they're judged as not being leader-like, when yet they might very well be. It's just that they need to work on that particular area, and then they're good to go. So the idea, as I worked on your idea more and more, and did more research, it was like it just kind of blew me away that here we've been focusing on coaching and developing people, putting all the money in at the last 25% of their career, or the last third of their career. And we really need to flip that and help people in the first quarter or third of their career, and midway too. But to ignore the people probably who need it the most is what we've been doing, because the money's been at the top, the top of the house.
Correct. And everyone assumes because they got there that they're a leader. But I can tell you, remember, if you know your Myers-Briggs, it's all the INTJs.
Right.
That rise to the top of the corporate world, but they're not the best leaders. They're technically proficient, and they may be able to sell a product or something, but they don't know how to work with people.
Right.
That personality type does not want to work with people. They want data. They're introverts. They think everything out. They don't include a group. They don't do group think. They don't do brainstorming. They don't say, hey, we've got a kind of an idea here. Would y'all come in and help me, think about this, and let's get it put together as a team. They don't want to do that. They have no skill set for that.
Right.
That's why they bring in consultants, which are sometimes helpful, sometimes not, if they don't do the carry through.
Right. Right.
So sometimes their deputy is the one that should be the leader.
Right.
It's what
sometimes leads underneath takes care of the leadership tasks, but yet they don't have the full responsibility.
Yes.
And grade and the rest of it.
That's right. To do that. And people in the Department of Defense, you follow the chain of command.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't go, past that. Now, any leader at that top level can say, hey, everything goes through the deputy first, and then I'll look at it if I have to. But that doesn't necessarily happen in the personalities.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So great. So anyway, thank you again for the idea. We got on it. It took us years to get it done, and we're delighted. People love it.
Yes.
I have people I was on a podcast yesterday, and the gal asked me, well, how do people like having feedback from an avatar? And so it's interesting, but most people really like it. You'll love it because they feel safe. They're in the non-judgment zone. Where with a human, they don't know the human that well, and especially the shyer people, the techie people, the STEM people, they especially love that. So, and other people say it just gives me time to process where I'm not feeling pressured.
Exactly.
Now, you'll get an occasional person who might say, well, the lips are weird. I'm like, well, okay, but look at the big picture. You're getting all this information about yourself.
Close your eyes.
Turn your machine around. It's okay to listen and follow along in your assessments. So.
And you use the computer generated voices, right?
Well, we have humanoids. We have actual humanoids. Yeah. No, it's voices, but our scripts are written by executive coaches.
Oh, yes. But in order, if something changes, you don't have to go to the studio, get the voice person.
No.
I do it. Yeah.
Change it. And
instantaneous. Yes.
Exactly. And we have videos in there. We have a lot of other content. We have, multimedia, as well as we have 2 developmental action plans. One's to develop in your own role to be a better performer. And that one goes into a deep risk analysis where it breaks apart your risks, helps you really analyze your risks and what to do about them. So that's exciting. And then the second one is career action planning for those people who aren't sure they're in the right job or maybe want to make a career change or they're just not sure. And we find this, we've done a lot of work with veterans, as our philanthropic work. And they have low, I don't know if you remember the low career focus under their leadership energy. So they tend to not know what they want to be. That's why they went into the military, but when they come out, they still don't know, right? So
they know they don't want to be doing that, maybe.
So this the career development module goes into personality and motivational career paths, what's best for them. And then we just added, which I'm really excited about, a STEM fit review.
Oh, good.
So we will actually help them understand you have a full STEM profile, or you have a STEM project management, or STEM leadership. And lastly, you'll like this one, STEM math only. So they're not sciencey, but they're good at math and analysis. So we have certain, we've done a lot of, obviously it's research based. So we've got all the solid research behind it, but that's because it's like you said earlier, finding those hidden gems in the organization. Everybody's crying for STEM talent, for engineering, technical, all the rest. But if they look inside, they have it. It just needs to be developed. We have found even secretaries and others that have this capability. So that's what's exciting to me is helping people, like you said, find that diamond in the rough. They don't even know they're there.
They don't know they're there, and they're not, well, like I say, Nancy, they might not be as extroverted as you and I are because, we'd be, I'd be figuring out what is it what's their big deal? How can I support it? And give them ideas and presentations. And you might, well, I just thought of this. You might want to do that, blah, blah, blah. And they're not maybe inclined to do that. So
right. But you know why? When you have the data, then you deploy them in the best ways in the work that they
Yeah.
love to do and they're really good at, versus making them suffer for 2 weeks with anxiety before a presentation
Yeah.
or, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's really helpful.
Well,
So
do you remember this one project we did, Nancy, where I was going through the Lean Six Sigma training? You mentioned it in the introduction. Department of Defense got very interested in Lean Six Sigma. Almost everybody was having to do it. And in my organization, everybody was having to get a green belt.
Oh, I
And
do
then,
remember it. Yeah.
yeah, then, so since the training was free and hey, I got to learn something different, I went on, did the black belt training. And then I said, I know, let's develop the profile for a Lean Six Sigma black belt. So we don't have to train everybody in Department of Defense. We can just take those that have a propensity for it
Right.
to be black belts and then master black belts. So I took your assessment. I did take it, but I'd already taken it.
Right.
And I did master black belts and regular black belts, just like me. And they're quite a bit different.
Yeah.
Profile.
That's great.
And so I was trying to get them to do that. And I talked to you about it, and we were going to, roll out this big thing. I got some to do it because I still had my budget.
Right.
And we could do it for some number. And so that's some of the uniqueness about that.
Exactly.
About that tool. We didn't map out what a black belt or master black belt personality and work habits and all that was. We just let them take it, and they fell out into 2 categories, very similar.
Right.
I could have looked at anyone's profile from the assessment and go, you can be black belt. You over here should be a master black belt. They're the more managers of the projects and like working with people. The black belts want to do the data.
Exactly.
The basic. So I should have gone on and been a master black belt.
Yeah.
Because all that data analysis running through statistics and all, it's okay, but that's not my passion to speak. It's working with people and helping them identify a project, what's your problem, and blah, blah. Let's see if it's a suitable project for any Lean Six Sigma activity. So you can take that and use it for any career field, develop the profile of your top performer in that career field, and then assess people and say, hey, you either are or you aren't, or you're, close. Maybe we could do something, but you really should be this other thing.
Right.
Because
you have over here that aren't being used.
And like your veterans, they don't know.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Veterans, just like I say, so we really help point them to what are your key strengths and what is it that you love to do? Where's your passion?
Yes.
Help them understand that. And, and the other thing is when you have that low career focus, they often take a lot of bad jobs that don't fit them, and they're miserable. And our whole goal with veterans is we don't, they've already served. We don't want them in bad job experiences or wasting their GI Bill on something that isn't going to serve them.
Correct.
So
that's right.
Our focus when we work.
Well, that is a wonderful project, and I think it is. It's so beneficial to someone who can just, now they're not being told what to do. You're going to be in this MOS, let's say in the Army Military Occupational Specialty. You're going to be this guy, Sergeant so-and-so, Lieutenant so-and-so. Oh, okay. But I came in to be this. Well, we don't need any more of those. We have enough. Now you got to be this. We're low. That's how the Army kind of makes that decision, or all the military. Now, if you're going to be a pilot, then that's a more elite group. They don't put them in mortuary affairs, They get to go to pilot school. But there are all kind of jobs in the military that you could get and wish you could be something else. So now this is their time. And like you say, if they have the GI Bill, spend it in the most success that will do the most for you.
Right.
Be excited about that learning opportunity and say, wow, I see how what I did in the military applies in a general way, but I don't want to be this thing anymore. I don't want to be that way.
And the other thing I think about, even we've found a lot of college students who were in the wrong majors for themselves. But the thing is, when you think about it, how do people know what they're really good at? Because high school, even some college, only, it's only based on us bumping around what maybe some parents or, instructors, teachers, advisors have told us, but they can't see the whole person. So, and they might not, and they won't appreciate gifts that they haven't seen in that individual.
Right.
So that's where having a deeper assessment, so you really know, it can open some doors. Because like I said, every college kid that I've ever met with by request of parent was in the wrong major and usually underselling what they could do. So they're in like a business degree when they could be an engineer, or they could be a biochemist or this or that.
Yeah. Right.
So I find that, but the same in organizations. But what I say is, you saw this so many years ago of how when you started working with the data, goodness, we need this, throughout.
Yeah. Right.
To spot talent.
Yeah.
What are you doing? So, and I think people are, I just went to an HR tech conference. There's another one coming up on developing talent, but I still, believe it or not, most companies do not use a deep assessment like this to understand their talent. They do skill development, and they build on skills. And even some of your big platforms now that are, heavily invested in their skill development. So obviously I'm in conversations with a number of those organizations saying you need to know capabilities first, not just skills. Like you said in the very beginning, skills can be developed, but where does someone's true talent, strengths, and gifts lie first?
That they even want to learn the skill.
Yeah. I mean,
are going to do well.
Yeah. It's, you're better off to bring somebody that is the right fit in, or develop them, and have somebody with the skills who might be, troublesome otherwise, right? Not happy in the job, or Lord knows what, right? All kinds of things. So,
And that's, let's face it, in the government, they get a new tranche of money every October 1. And so they don't really care how much stuff costs.
Tomorrow. Isn't it tomorrow?
Well, no, they're probably under a continuing resolution, which means they just kick them.
But they still get the money
on the road, and they just have to use the same budget they had last year. They can't.
Right. But I was just teasing, because tomorrow's October 1. Coincidentally,
in private industry, I know with our company, every dollar that we spend is money that doesn't go back in the company.
Right.
So we have to look at that very carefully. We just don't willy-nilly train people to do stuff.
Exactly.
It has to be based on their job, and so on and so forth. And so it makes sense to get the right people in the right job, rather than hope. And that's not a strategy I heard once a few years ago, that it's going to work out.
Right.
So the human dynamic and personality types within any organization, or now that we have a company and we hire people to work, we've got a contract and our employees are 6 hours away from us. We don't go visit them very often.
Right.
Once a year at Christmas, we take a Christmas gift to each employee. We take them out to dinner, chat them up. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, we hear. Yes, it's wonderful. Thank you for all the work you're doing. And then we come home. So it's very difficult to keep employees invested at that distance.
Sure.
And, for anybody. So, and because of the clearance level, you have a very small pool from which to choose, and a lowly populated point of West Virginia. Okay. So it makes everything super difficult. But you try as best as you can to, honor them. And I know what the 11 elements are that make up the reward,
right?
Recognition and reward. And we do try and do that, but at 6 hours away, it's nearly impossible.
Right.
And I can't depend on the person that's there, that's in charge, to be able to know how to do that much either. So I try and coach them how to work with the employees that are there, and what we're doing. So it's very important for small companies. It's expensive to have to advertise jobs.
You
get them up to speed, and then your client, who in this case is Department of Defense, It gets aggravated that you've got this lag time between an employee leaves and a new one. Why can't you get someone in here? Well, it takes a while to get the. So smaller companies have to use their money very wisely. And like I say, knowing that what makes them get up in the morning to come to a building where you're in a skiff, it's very isolated. You can't make personal calls. Your cell phone has to go in the box. You can't use it during the day. You can't contact your family. If there's an emergency, they can call your office phone. And, if you're in a skiff, you only see those people.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting the right people and then keeping them,
Yeah,
is so important.
It's hard. It's a revolving door, but people generally leave because they get a better job. It pays more. And when we price a contract 5 years ago, we don't have a lot of leeway
Right.
on what I can pay now. So all of these things factor in. Now, the people on this conversation might not have that problem, but it's just by knowing the assessment as well as I do, it's a phone conversation with the person. I can usually sort of figure out,
Right.
if they're going to fit in or not.
Yeah.
And,
We do use, a lot of our clients do use us for selection screening too.
yes,
Well, we predominantly, focus on leader and talent development.
correct.
We can also get the right people on the bus, if you will, to make
Yeah.
sure that,
That's
important.
that's a great way to put it. We usually say everybody in the boat rowing together
Exactly.
in the same direction.
So
But great leaders can work miracles, really, in an organization.
yeah.
And so you got to find that great leader to take it on and say, I know what to do in these situations, and give me the freedom to work my magic.
Right.
And that person should get paid quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's saving you a lot of headaches.
Exactly. And save you a lot of cost, turnovers, mistakes.
Yes.
And they'll help you capture a lot of opportunities too.
Right.
But I want to go back on something more personal, if I can, in your background, if that's okay.
Sure.
What drew you to work in the military and to go to like the war college and that kind of thing?
Oh.
Your own, a little more about you. What was it that?
Well, it's interesting. I started out as an art teacher.
For what, high school or?
Well, I was certified kindergarten through 12th grade.
Okay.
But when I went to get my first job, I had graduated from college at 20. And as I was sitting with the art supervisor for that county, she said, well, I can't put you in high school. You're only 20. Students are 18.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, oh, is that a problem? And she said, well, we've got to have a little more age difference there, honey. So I said, well, whatever. So they put me in an elementary school, kindergarten through 7th grade. And they'd never had an art teacher before. And I had 650 students a week.
Wow.
There was no such thing as a curriculum. So I had to create my own curriculum in three phases, or, early childhood, elementary, and then upper elementary, something like that. I could do ceramics, but I had to do different projects with them, and everything. It was just a good thing I was really young, because I wouldn't try. I was too stupid to know what I was getting myself into. And then when I had children, I said, well, I need to stay home with them. So I did that for a while until they were, in junior high or late middle school and high school. Right. And I said, well, I don't want to go back to teaching little kids. So I've discovered this master's degree in instructional design, which is the art and science of developing curriculum. Right. And as it so happened, someone I knew was the head of an organization in Department of Defense. And he offered me a part-time job. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. And so I was getting my master's degree at the same time, working as a part-time. And he said, Leslye, you really need to fill out a government application to be hired as a government employee. And I said, oh, okay. And so I filled it out, and shockingly, I was hired as a government employee instead of a contractor there
Good.
at this organization that they did training databases. Now, that's not really my thing, but
Right, right.
the analysis that had to go on with it. So and as so happens in the Department of Defense, they got an undersecretary for personnel and readiness, and he said, "I don't want that organization anymore. I'm going to draw a line through it. It's going to go away, and all these databases then on mainframe computers were going to be sent out to Monterey, California, where the defense manpower and data center is, which it's really makes sense that they would put it out there." Well, I didn't want to go to Monterey, California, and I don't program. So through a lot of interesting things that happened, I ended up getting a job at Fort Eustis as an instructional designer. And at that time, I was the first person in the Department of Army that had ever been hired that actually had a master's degree in instructional design. First person.
Something.
So now the Department of Defense is the biggest schoolhouse, not only education, but primarily training.
Right.
Because they've got colleges and universities that people have never even heard of. But anyway, they do the education for a vast amount of DoD employees. And so I was there to learn how to be an instructional designer. And I said, okay. But they said, but you already know all this. I said, yes. And so they said, well, you're going to skip all this stuff. We're going to put you right with an organization who wants you to design a new curriculum for. This was the watercraft operators.
Okay.
So most people don't know that the Army has a large Navy, but it's these little boats that they use, say like in Vietnam, that could go down smaller waterways.
Right.
The river destroyer.
Sure.
Right. So I went over there and I helped them design their new level 10 curriculum. And so I said, well, I need to go out on one of your boats so I can see kind of what you do. And I need to take the course so I can see where the gaps are and everything. They went, you would do that? I said, sure. That's what we do. So they'd never had anybody that ever took any interest in them. So I just had the most fun because it was all men, all old crusty. What would we say? Well, I think they stopped the swearing when I showed up, but you know, they chewed tobacco and spit in cups, and you know, that was just the way they were.
Right, right.
So, I got to go out there, and they were just so appreciative. And I said, "Wow, this is really so much fun." So, through another set of things, I got on a job. I left that job after 2 years and went on to the Pentagon to the Defense Business Management University, which was another startup organization.
Right.
DoD controller to develop financial management education and training that was standardized across the Department of Defense. Because at that time, the Army had a finance school, the Navy had a finance school, the Air Force had a finance school, and Defense Finance and Accounting Service had a finance school, and the Defense Logistics Agency. So they're all teaching something different, blah, blah, blah. They thought it was a lot of wasted money. So they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars developing this organization that after a few years, they said, you know, we don't like this organization anymore. We're going to draw a line through it. So I somehow got into all of these new organizations because it's so, I now know why, Nancy, because they're fun and exciting and challenging, and you start something from new.
Right. And that's your profile.
That was exactly what I was busy doing. So I took 7 of those jobs and only 2 remain.
Wow. And
it's
so
really hard.
At what point did you then go to the War College? You actually worked a
right? Yeah. Well, I got in a program Department of Defense loves to develop leaders.
Right.
So I applied for the Defense Leadership and Management Program, which was a 3-year program. You had to take all of these courses and do all these things. And part of it was you had to go to one of the war colleges.
Okay.
So there's an Army, a Navy, a Marine Corps, an Air Force, and the National War College. Well, I didn't want to leave the area, and the National War College is at Fort Leslye McNair in Washington, D.C. And it's considered kind of the Harvard of the war colleges. The others are based, if you're Army, you go to the Army War College and learn more Army stuff. But this brought in people from all of the services, the State Department, the CIA, other three-letter agencies, and 30 international students. So it was a very rich learning environment. And it was a 9-month program. I got paid to go there every day. I left my job. I got a master's degree in national security strategy. And it was just a fabulous experience. I just couldn't believe I was there. I pinched myself every day.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work, 300 pages a night to read.
Wow.
So it's a good thing I was on the commuter train, because I had an hour coming in the morning and an hour going out back in the afternoon. I used that to do a lot of my reading. But as they said in the War College, I was saying, oh, it was a lot of reading. They looked at me and said, reading? Are you doing the reading? And I said, well, yes. I said, no, it's only a lot of reading if you do it.
Ooh.
I said, well, true. But see, they had all been to the command and staff colleges. They had already done a lot of this reading once they got to the National War College. I had never been to any of that.
Yeah. So
I'm having to learn it all from the ground up.
Exactly.
So I said, well, my own sense of what a student does, I can't not do the reading. I started skimming a little more.
There you go.
Really highlighting what we talked about. We had our a cohort, and we went to our different classes. But it was just really great. We visited the CIA. We flew out to Nellis Air Force Base. Let's see, we went to down to Camp Lejeune. We went to the Army post, which was right there at Fort Belvoir. All over, I took a 2-week course. You had to go pick a part of the world. They actually assigned it to me, South America. So we went on a 2-week trip, 9 of us to South America, going to 4 countries, talking to their Department of Defense, so on and so forth, about what was going on. So it was just, went to the embassies there, met the ambassador and all of the staff, and we talked to them about working in the country and what their problems were. So, they're training these people, military and civilians, to be high level in policy and in their various services too. Right. And then to get people, foreign students, to come in and experience the United States and democracy, rather than them just hearing what other people say, what they think it is.
Right.
So that's a strategy there to help them understand. And then when they become generals, because they're coming in as colonels, when they become generals, and all of these other people were going to be generals, then they have a network across countries that's very helpful.
Oh, good. Good. Well, that's fascinating.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. Yeah. So now we've got a few minutes left, but just so now you left the DoD, but you do consulting for them, and you're also running a preschool or early childhood education too.
Well, we started a school with just 3 and 4-year-olds 4 years ago, and we add a grade a year. So we're up to 2nd grade. We add 3rd grade. We add 4th grade, so on and so forth. And so we're very excited about that. I'm a 1st and 2nd grade teacher. I'm the executive director, and my husband teaches Latin.
Very good. That's exciting.
So we find that's interesting. We think the children are fabulous. He's never been a teacher, and he's just like, what do I do? I said, well, teach them Latin. So he's got a video, and I hear him. He's across the hall with the kids, and I hear him singing the Latin song. It's like our ABC song, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, they have it in Latin too, and it's a different tune. And then they have poems in Latin and other songs, and he's singing along with them. And it's so cute. They come in and they say, we've finished our Latin class now, Dr. Morris. And I said, well, good. We're going to be reading now in English, students. Or then I call them discipuli, Latin for student.
So great. No,
we're just having a fun time with that. Yeah.
Good.
In our old age.
No. It sounds like a lot of fun. I have grandkids, so I love the ages.
Yeah.
They're just delightful.
They're really good. Adults are fun. And I thought when I promoted myself from children to adults, I mean, it's just a different set of problems.
Right.
But when I was teaching art, I'd have them once a week for 30 minutes, which is not long to do art because there were so many kids. And so they would hold on to my legs. When you had little children, you drag them across the kitchen.
Right.
And so they get me and I'd say I was Frankenstein. Well, I have all these kids.
Yeah.
And those are really fun years.
It is.
Really
They
fun
are
years.
terrific.
So I've gone back to my fun years with little
Good.
kids. And
Good.
because we have a small school and only 10 students per class, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Unlike like it is down here in this area, the children are in charge of the school. Here, the teachers are in charge of the school.
Yeah.
And so we have reasonable discipline, and I give them what my children call the mom look when they're acting up. The big thing is they talk too much. That's the big discipline. I'll go, really, Graf? Straighten up like this. And so I don't have to do time out, nothing. I just give them the look. And they straighten right up. So we have a great time and tremendous amount of learning. I already see their little personalities. I'm already analyzing them.
Well, they're too young for our assessments, but that's okay.
But when I say, "Yay, we're gonna do math," now they go, "Yay, we love math," and I go, "All right, I know what you two are gonna be."
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Do the reading. I'm doing more. Can I take my book home tonight and read more? And I say, "Well, I don't know. Really, you want to read more? Sounds like a lot. I don't know." Yes, I want to win the challenge. So we've got a little competition to who reads the most. I said, "Well, if you must, but your parent has to sign that page that you read." "Okay, I'm going to read 10 pages tonight." "Okay."
Wow.
So it's fun.
Keep them motivated and excited like that, right? As they go through school and
a little bit of competition does it.
Yeah.
A little bit of and a lot of praise. Right. And one-on-one is really how it goes. So
So
they're excited. And I told the other teachers, think about when you were a student, some of us have forgotten that. I mean, I'll have to say, I have to go deep into the recesses of my brain to remember that.
Me too.
But you always had a favorite teacher. And why?
Right.
And I said, our goal is for us to be that child's favorite teacher.
Exactly.
So I'm in competition with you because they're going to come through me eventually. They start at 3 and they stay with us. I'm going to have them first and second grade. And so I'm in competition with you. I'm going to be their more favorite teacher than you were.
Well, I have to tell you though, Leslye, when I was in first grade, I had 99. There were 99 kids in my class.
How was that possible?
One teacher. So I'm shocked I'm here today.
I'm shocked. How did you learn to read?
Actually, I was in a Catholic school back then. One nun. And I learned how to print and write cursive in first grade.
Yeah.
We transferred to public school, and in second grade, I didn't have to do anything because I learned it all from this one teacher with 99 kids. So if you're a good teacher, I mean, that's too many kids. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. No. And of course, back then there was no talking back or goofing around kind of thing in class, So, but somehow they managed to help us learn, which is shocking. Yeah. You couldn't even.
Exactly. I can't fathom it now, but it is, the schools have all ditched cursive. Now some of them are coming back. We actually, the Abeka curriculum, and it starts cursive at 4. I pushed it up to 5 to kindergarten. I thought they just have a little bit better control, but eye hand. And so we do it at 5, but they have writing every day, and just the normal stuff.
Right. So we do need to wrap here, but before we do, so what's next for you? What do you hope your legacy is as you move through your career, a fascinating career, and of course, and you're a joy to work with. I've always had so much fun anytime we, of course, connect and get together and start brainstorming. It's like
that's what's the exciting part. We talk over each other all the time, but we don't care.
That's right.
Because we're having a good time and we know something good's going to come out of it. Well, I'm at the age where I want to pull back from the day-to-day of the teaching. And in our area, it's so hard to find teachers.
Right.
we're actually bringing if we can get through the visa process, a teacher from Uganda.
Great.
And she's got music. She can play the guitar. She can teach music. She can teach any grade. And so since we can't find any in our local area, that's our option.
Yeah.
But so I'll be able to back up a little bit from that, but I still have a little art studio that I love pitter pattering in. I've created a wood shop so I can do some wood sculpture with epoxy resin and stained glass. But I haven't gotten to be able to get into it because why? I'm at school every day.
Right.
But I hope to be able to pull back from that. And although I've retired from I've retired from teaching after 3 years to have children, so I don't know that can really count.
Yeah.
But retired from the DOD, and then our company will probably close it up this year.
Oh.
And I'll retire from that, so I won't have all of that responsibility to do, and maybe be able to pull back from here and be able to keep my fingers in it, of course. I do music here. I teach the children how to play handbells. And get back in my studio and be able to do those kind of fun things.
Great.
I like doing that bring me happiness and joy. And
Good.
whether anybody else likes them or not,
Does
I really don't care. I've got it all over my house. And so if anybody likes it, yeah, I can make you one, but I don't aspire to make stuff for people. It's too nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
To get it just right, because I'll give myself a lot of leeway. Oh, well, nobody's ever going to notice if this little thing's over here. And I go ahead and use it, but I can't do that for others. So that's a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, I just love the art and music.
Good.
More of that.
This has been so much fun. It's been great to have you on to share your experience, at the Pentagon, the War College, just in your insights on people. I mean, and how, like I said, you were always ahead of the curve coming up with these ideas that nobody was even thinking about. So
they're just now getting around to it, I think.
Yeah, now people are starting to get around to it, but you had those early insights as to what needed to happen. But like you say, sometimes it's hard to sell unless you have the budget in these large, bureaucratic organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this has been just delightful. I think
it's been great connecting back up with you. We haven't had an hour-long conversation, I would say, probably in a year or so.
I know.
So this is good to do, and I tell everybody about the assessment, CDR 360 and CDR, and just encourage them to do it. I try and get them to, at least take it themselves, like you did with me.
Right.
You just take it.
Yeah, try it. Test drive it is what we say. Take a test drive. See what you think.
Take a test drive, then you're hooked because you see the great value of it. And I think we ought to, as you say, I would end with this. It should be pushed down into the organization more to find that talent earlier. So you're not wasting your money on a bunch of people that are just, a rock, and they're never going to be anything more. And I've had employees tell me, quit telling me to go get my bachelor's degree. I'm 55 years old. I do my job. I go home. I don't want to go to school. Please don't tell me anymore. And I said, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
And I won't. And you're a good worker and you're doing a good job, and that's what you want to do, then I'll honor that and, not bringing it up anymore. So I think it's very important that we realize that about people too.
Good. No, I agree. And again, let's not make it another year before we talk again.
Okay, definitely not.
All right. Thanks.
Keep me involved. Let me know what's going on with you.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, you were delightful. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, you too, Nancy.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.